60-minute drive for a 60-minute game. After all the miles we've traveled, we're almost there. After all the hours we've worked, one more can make us legends. After all.
Good evening, folks, and it is time for the last word. Of course, I am Jeff Barnes, along with your favorite two guys, Greg Rector, and of course, Brock Vierra is not on assignment tonight, so all three of us are in the house. So you get a little bit extra talk from us tonight. Guys, how's your night going?
Pretty darn well. Yourself?
I'm exhausted. It's been a long few days, football-wise, work-wise. It's all just comes together. And I'm glad I'm not on the road today because I would have really, really been 3 times as exhausted. So next week changes it all. I'll be back on the road next week. How about you, Brock?
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat as you. Fortunately, I had today off, being that UNLV played yesterday. So just enjoying games from home. Nice not being on the road as well. But I guess every notion or every thought I had about the way the current landscape of college football was working out has been turned upside on its head this week. So very excited to talk about it.
Yep.
Yeah, well, speaking of talking about that UNLV team, we're going to touch on that in a few minutes. But first, let's go to the scoreboard. So we're going to go chime in on some of the things that are going on. First things first, let's get to these highlighted games from earlier today. West Virginia actually falls to Pittsburgh 38-34 in Pittsburgh. A very exciting game there. If you didn't get a chance to watch that, I suggest you find a way to go back and watch it. Exciting game there. Iowa gets off the schneid after the tough loss to Iowa State. They win at home over Troy 38-21. A lot of points for Iowa. We're not used to Iowa scoring 38. Arkansas 37-27 over UAB. Tough game. I mean, UAB is a better program than people give them credit for. Virginia Tech over Old Dominion, the place that I'm very familiar with. My family's from Virginia, Virginia Beach, Norfolk area, so very familiar with Old Dominion since I was young. And Bill Carroll would say the same since he played on that field, the old field. Virginia Tech tops them 37-17. Washington State tops Washington. The post Caleb DeBoer era starts off with the loss to Washington State, a key loss to Washington State, 24-19. Texas A&M beats up on the Florida Gators, 33-20. So we were talking about some of those games. Anything on there surprise you guys?
Not really. I wasn't surprised that West Virginia lost. Woo Pig Suey did it again at home, thank goodness. But Washington State beating Washington didn't surprise me at all. And again, seeing Billy Napier fall again, they're just a horrible, horrible team at Florida. That's a horrible team.
Yeah, Greg, couldn't agree with you more. Florida's issues go far beyond the football field, and that's reflective in their play. This is a organization that has no leadership, no belief, no love for one another, and no love for the game. And the reason why is because of whatever love they had has been beaten out of them over these past couple of weeks. Having such a massive loss to an in-state rival, combined with all the issues in the offseason, combined with having Graham Mertz as your starting quarterback, just leads to a whole bunch of things that are not very good. So Florida, I feel very bad for Gators fans, but it's clear that it's a wrap on your season, which is so sad being that it's week 3. The only other thing I want to touch on before we move on, one, congratulations to the Cougars for winning the Apple Cup. Jake Deckard was a guy I had on the hot seat coming into this season. This would completely change the narrative on his career at his time at Washington State. But West Virginia, I wasn't surprised they lost. I was surprised they allowed Pitt to put up 38 points against them. And then in the manner in which they lost, they felt that they were getting dominated in aspects of the game in which they shouldn't be getting dominated in. And last year, I had Neil Brown on the hot seat. I thought that he finally quieted those concerns after a strong 2023 season. He's back right on the hot seat. I think that his seat is hotter than ever. When not only do you start season 1 and 2, but your 2 losses are two major rivals in your program, that's just unacceptable. If somehow he loses I don't think they play. But if Marshall was on the schedule and he lost to them, I don't even think he would see a week 5 at this rate. Neil Brown, it's very, very bad what's going on, which is not good when you have such a talent like Garrett Green at quarterback.
Yeah, I kind of touched on all of those when I was going through it, and some of my really brief thoughts on it. Pitt, to me, is an exciting team to watch this year. And it's something we normally don't say about Pitt, right? Pitt usually comes out, they give us a game or two where you get a little excited about them, and then the wheels come off, right? But this year seems different. This year seems like a team that's a lot more disciplined, a team that makes way less mistakes than most Pitt teams normally do. And you're not getting super quarterback play out of the quarterback position, but it's efficient football at its best. Playmaker guys are making plays out there, and it's not always the same guys. You're not looking at, Pitt and going,
it's not Kenny Pickett to Jordan Addison is
yes,
what we're saying, kids.
Yeah. Yeah. You beat me to the punch, Greg. You beat me to the punch. But we're seeing a complete team for once. Now, will they win the ACC? Most likely not.
No.
But it's nice to see them competitive and actually going out there winning games consistently. It'll be nice to see it in a nice bowl game this year. I can say that. And if they keep this up, but we've seen 3-0 teams fall off the wagon before. So let's not push that cart down the road just yet. But overall, a great start for Pitt this season, and I'm very excited about what I'm seeing. All right. So first game up, and it got Brock on. So this was perfect. There's no other way to say we got to start off with this one here. Last night, Kansas goes down to UNLV in their own house. Okay, 23-20. Okay, and it was the running game that did it for both teams. Got them on the board. Neither quarterback was overly impressive. And right now, you got to really look at Jalen Daniel and go, okay, we thought he was going to be way better than this. It's not happening. Kansas is starting to fall back to being that Kansas we saw in previous years where they're struggling to stop people. They're struggling to consistently put up points, and now you're 1-2. Can they come back in their conference and actually make a run late in the season? Not looking like that so far. UNLV, on the other hand, 3-0, been impressive so far in all 3 games, and now they get a chance to go and make it 4-0 next week. Brock, what do you think about this game?
A head coach is near everything, but a head coach is nothing without good coordinators. And that's exactly what we're seeing with the Kansas Jayhawks right now. Their inability to replace Andy, and I'm not going to attempt to say his last name, Andy K, now the offensive coordinator up in Penn State, is basically the reason why Kansas is the way they are right now. I had massive concerns with them from the jump. Daniels didn't even look good to start the season, let alone when he goes against higher competition, like what we saw this week against UNLV, and then, of course, last week against Illinois. Jeff Grimes, the offense coordinator, seems to have the ability to put his 2020 resume in 2024 at people who still praise his work. Yes, he did very good at BYU, and he did very good at his first season at Baylor. But that's not acting the Bears, especially offensively, weren't a dumpster fire for the past couple seasons. Now, of course, he has really good schemes and really good concepts, but when they're put into practice, we see quarterbacks, especially quarterbacks that don't have the best of arms, make really bad decisions at really bad times. And that's exactly what we saw against UNLV. Kansas was ready to go into the locker room with all the momentum until they threw an absolutely devastating interception to end that first half, compounded by the fact that despite UNLV's best attempts to have the worst game management in history, were able to score a touchdown on the final play of the game. Again, just signs of an undisciplined unit. And then when you go into the second half, there is no reason UNLV should have won that game. We can talk about the fumble all we want and how it bounced into damn near every single Jayhawk defender's hands before it somehow got returned to UNLV. When push comes to shove, UNLV had multiple opportunities inside the red zone because of Kansas' inability to, one, get a stop, or two, play disciplined football. And at the end of the day, they had no passing attack at all. Ricky White III, a wide receiver who had a monster week, and week 2 was virtually non-existent. Jacob De Jesus was non-existent, and yet UNLV still found a way to win because they were able to dominate up front. That shouldn't happen. We're talking about a Power 4 team that's supposed to be a contender for a conference championship against a group of 5 team. That cannot happen. That should not happen. And again, it just shows, Kansas's shortcomings. This was more of a game that Kansas lost instead of UNLV winning. But good teams win. Great teams get lucky all the time. That's exactly what we saw today. Congratulations to UNLV. What I don't understand is Matt Sluka in 3 games has shown that he cannot make consistent throws from the pocket. He always has to roll out to his right. Why are opposing defenses not bringing heat from that side to either force him left or make him stay in the pocket and make him be more inaccurate? Why teams are not addressing that, I don't know. But until they do, they're going to keep torching defenses.
What about you, Greg?
Well, UNLV played an ugly game, but Kansas was uglier, and that's the bottom line here. And I don't consider Kansas a Big 12 contender this year. I didn't consider them as a contender. Everybody goes on about Daniels as a quarterback. I'm sorry, but he's just not somebody that I particularly like. I just don't really I don't really see him as being a really good college quarterback, and that's just the way I look at him.
Yeah, I think when he came on there, people saw the flashes and thought, okay, he had room for improvement. There's no improvement this year.
None.
And maybe the coordinator change has something to do with it, but it can't be all of it, right? You still got to see at least some flash plays from the player. If he's still that kind of player, you're not seeing it anymore. The struggles to complete passes, 50% of his passes today. So, or last night, I should say. So I think what you're seeing is that right there. You know, when you have a chance to play a program that people consider lesser, okay, and I did that in air quotes because to me, any good program can go in there and beat you on any day if you don't play your best football. And there's no way that we can look at Kansas's game last night and say they played their best football. No, they didn't. And UNLV did. And UNLV came in there and beat them the way they did. Okay, so kudos to UNLV. Kudos to Coach Unky Cooper. I see you guys over there 3-0. But overall, the bigger story is here's a Big 12 team in Kansas losing to a group of 5 team in UNLV. And we keep talking about Power 4 because, you know, we don't really count the Pac-12 as a Power 5 right now. And I don't know if they will in the future the way they're recruiting. But overall, you know, you got to look at this Power 4 and go, once again, they're still top heavy. There's certain schools in those conferences that are real contenders, and the rest are what they are. So Kansas is now one of those teams that you look at and go, they are what they are. 1-2 right now, okay? And ugly loss to UNLV Friday night. And if you don't fix this train that is right now off the tracks, it's going to get worse. Okay?
Kansas State will destroy Kansas. They will destroy the Jayhawks.
Absolutely. And West Virginia.
Yeah,
West Virginia. You know? And that's part of the thing we're talking about. We're talking about those are the mid-tier teams. Those aren't even the top ones, right? Missouri. Yep. You know what I'm saying? There's so many teams in that conference now that they've bulked it up. Are they really that good? Are they really, you know, do they bring anything to this conference the way they're playing right now? Doesn't look like it. You know? Now, we'll talk about, and there's a reason why you haven't seen a certain score just yet talked about this week with us, because we could probably get to that later in the show after we highlight the 4 games. We talk about the statement and things like that. There's a certain program that's going to get a lot of talk, and I know Brock's waiting to pounce on that one. So you stay tuned, folks. Don't go anywhere. We got a lot coming your way. We still got a lot more to go through. We got to take a break real quick. We'll come back, and we're going to talk about the Alabama Crimson Tide rolling through Wisconsin right after this break.
In 2006, we founded Yeti Coolers with a simple mission: build the cooler we use every day if it existed. One that was built for the serious outdoor enthusiasts rather than for mass discount retailers. One that could take the abuse we knew we'd put it through, out in the field and on the water. One that simply wouldn't break. We decided early on that production innovation would come from necessity and first-hand experience, not from market research and data analysis. Today, Yeti products perform when it matters most. Whether that be an excursion into the remote Alaskan wilderness, chasing redfish on the Gulf Coast, or just getting together with friends in the backyard, we make gear that helps you stay out longer, travel farther, and live harder. Hashtag built for the wild.
You are watching The Last Word with Team NBS Media. And now back to Joe, Jeff, and Brock.
We got Jeff in the house. We got Brock. That ain't Joe, folks. That is Greg Rector. Once again, just a reminder, just to let you know, people always go, hey, who's that guy? Is that Joe? No, it's not Joe. That is Greg Rector. Joe is the boss, so he is off working somewhere right now. So we'll get him on one Saturday night when he is not tied up somewhere else. But in the meantime, it's time to talk about, the Saban-less Alabama Crimson Tide just keep on winning, folks. 42-10 over Wisconsin. Now, it is Wisconsin. People are going to say that, yes. But Jalen Milroe continues to show progress. What can you say about this? I mean, 196 passing yards, 75 rushing yards, 3 passing TDs, 2 rushing TDs, and he is just on fire right now to start the season. Greg, your thoughts on Bama?
I said last week that Bama was going to smoke these Badgers, and I was correct. Milroe just was dominant. The offensive line completely dominated Wisconsin's defensive line. And again, the way Milroe is playing right now, he is definitely one of the top quarterbacks in the country. And Kalen DeBoer is really done a magical job with the Crimson Tide thus far. Wisconsin, like I said, in week 1, Luke Fickell, you need to be retiring. You need to be gone. I don't care. You are not a Wisconsin Badger head coach. Bottom line. I have no idea why they went to him in the first place. It bothered me at the beginning. And yeah, so good on the Roll Tide. And as far as the Wisconsin Badgers go, see you guys later.
Yeah, I get everybody your frustration with the Luke Fickell thing. I thought, listen, he did a great job at Cincinnati with what he was doing. If there was a guy to go after, if you're a Power 5 school like Wisconsin that needed a change, it wasn't a bad idea. However, you didn't think this was going to be a quick turnaround.
No.
Okay, he has to rebuild that program. How he likes to do it. Does he like to go after 5-star guys? Yes. But he's going to load up on 3-star guys, coach those up for a couple of years, get some portal guys in there. And he's going to take about a 3-year plan to get this team to where he wants it to be and competitive. So I ain't giving up on Luke Fickell yet. I know it's ugly. People aren't exactly happy with it, but it could be worse. It could be the same old Wisconsin we've seen for the past several years. And unless you get a special player to come through there, they're not overly competitive. Here they are. Okay. I think this is going to be a program. They're going to be feeling their way through this, trying to get things right over the next year and a half, 2 years, before they finally start to get on their feet. So I think it's a little more patience with Luke Fickell than anything else. As far as this game, though, I'm going to give you my analysis after Brock says his. So Brock, go ahead on and tell us how you feel about Bama right now.
So when it comes to Alabama, I'm very impressed. Of course, it's only been 3 games, but I think you're seeing tremendous improvement from the Crimson Tide compared to where they were last year, especially in their ability to adjust throughout the game and also break away from opponents in the second half. That's not something that we saw last year. We can name a bunch of games in which Bama played it close all the way to the end. I mean, you can talk about USF, Ole Miss, Arkansas, did a whole bunch more. Those are the top three that come off the top of my head. And then you're seeing, I guess, of course, the performance against UCF last week and then Wisconsin this week. Their ability to break away is very impressive and something that's going to benefit them in the long run. Jalen Milroe really impressed me. I think that he plays within the situation. I think he plays within the structure of the offense well. He doesn't try to do too much, but when you force him to, start to push that tempo up, he makes throws. I mean, just talk about the end of the half, that sequence right there. I mean, to hit his wide receivers in stride the way he did and the throws that he made were very, very, very impressive. I think he's really started to come into his own as a player. Something that we started to saw last year, I think, is starting to finalize this year. It's his identity as a player and as a quarterback is really starting to establish itself. And he's playing his game. And when he plays his game, he's one of the most unstoppable players of college football. So well done to the Crimson Tide. I look forward to seeing what they do, of course, in SEC play, especially with a massive in-conference matchup coming up soon.
Indeed.
Jeff, I had their patience, your temperance, your ability to see things in the way that you do, because I would write Luke Fickell a very strongly worded letter to resign immediately if I was in any type of position of power at the University of Wisconsin. I would do that so I don't have to pay his buyout because it's a bit too soon. What he has turned the Badgers into is an absolute disgrace. Wisconsin, when ran properly, is a top 15 program in this country year in and year out. When they do what they do well, which is recruit and develop linemen on both sides of the ball, when they're able to establish a power run offense, they are one of the most unstoppable forces in the nation. And the only thing that prevented them from being a true national championship contender was the fact they never really could recruit the quarterback and cornerback positions. You expected a guy like Fickell to come in and be able to do that, considering you just saw what he had at Cincinnati in Sauce Gardner and Desmond Ridder. You expected to come in and modernize your offense, not completely change it. You expected him to utilize talent, to get the most out of them, not completely waste them like how he did with Braylon Allen. You expect a guy like Luke Fickell to have a strong defense that doesn't allow teams to strike quickly against them. That is not something Wisconsin has. Now, I'm hoping that they turn it around very soon. But for the love of the good Lord, please learn to put quarterbacks under center again. I am asking you, why is Wisconsin running the ball on 3rd and 2, 3rd and 1 out of shotgun? I said it before, and I'll say it again. It's absolutely ridiculous. You don't even put them in pistol. You put the quarterback under center. You get your big boys going north, and you get some space to get critical yards. Their ability to spread and shred is not what makes Wisconsin football. Their ability to continue to push the ball upfield with force is what makes them them. And right now, they aren't them, and they are bad. So, fire Luke Fickell. That's my last word on
Living right up to the moniker.
What head coach or coordinator does Brock want to fire now? Jeff will settle him down, trust me. Grab a snack and another drink. Let's get back to the last word, the show for the real college football fan.
Yeah,
they know you.
Right.
They know you too well, Brock. They know you too well.
I hate to see incompetence from coaching staffs when this is not the NFL where players are playing, for millions of dollars or hundreds of thousands of dollars week in, week out.
Well, some of them are playing for millions now with NIL, but
True.
Yeah.
True. But even for those players as well, we all know college football, there's a shelf life on it. There has to be. Like, as much as we make fun of the 9-year and 8-year seniors, that is exception. Those aren't the rules. You are wasting 4 to 5 years of young men's lives and young people's lives too, for all the staff that's in the building as well. You are wasting that time that they can never get back coaching and running bad football. And that's something that I just cannot stomach.
Yeah. Before we move on, I just listen. I watched this game, and Bama's a way better team. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. If it was the previous regime and you still had this Bama team would still smack the last set of Wisconsin teams. Wisconsin has not been that good for several years. This is why Luke Fickell's there. I don't believe that, like I said, I did not believe when he got hired it was going to be a quick turnaround. I don't believe it's a finished product yet. I think it's still a little premature. However, you do want to see improvement from last year. I think there are certain things. Now, this team did make a bowl game last year, so it was at least a 6-7 win team last year. However, it's not showing you anything versus really, really good teams. It didn't show you anything versus Bama today. And if it's not showing anything against Bama, there's not a lot of hope down the road when you face the tougher teams in the Big Ten this season. So I do see why people would be frustrated, but this program was dead in the water, and that's why you hired the man. So if they're going to be impatient in Wisconsin, you're going to be bad for a very long time, because guess what? When you start to get to the point where you don't let coaches who have longer plans of building things, they're not guys that immediately turn things around. And it's kind of hard to do that in college football anyway. Very few guys come in the first year and have a drastic change. They're going, those things are very rare to do. So I don't think that in any shape, form, that this Wisconsin team was going to be a great team coming out the gate, even after winning 6+ games last year. So I look at this team this year. They're still deficient on offense in certain areas. Gee, that sounds like Wisconsin before he got there. They're still struggling to get some playmakers on defense. Gee, that sounds like Wisconsin before he got there. They had some excellent players in the pros. You talk about guys that are hanging around, the Leo Chenals, and those guys that are all on teams and playing very well at the next level. So they have been, over the years, finding NFL caliber talent. If he doesn't start to turn out at least NFL caliber linemen and linebackers and edge rushers like they've been doing for the past several years, then you can look at Luke Fickell and go, bro, what are you doing? Because we are at least turning out NFL talent and winning some games. You're not even doing that. But we are not at that point yet with Luke Fickell in his program. So, like I said, I'm going to say it in Spanish for those that understand. Calmate, relax, all right? and no, I am not Spanish. That is, I'm flexing my limited bilingual vocabulary. So, in that, I'm just going to say, listen, I think you got to give the guy the chance to execute his program. He at least deserves another year after this year to at least show you quality improvement with the talent on this roster and the ability to win games with what he has. That's what you got to do. And after year 3, if it's no improvement, then hey, listen, write the guy a check and tell him kick rocks. It is what it is. You got to move on at that point. You are a premier Big Ten program. So we have been talking about a bunch of programs that we like so far. Let's talk about another one. Yeah, let's slide on over, because there was another in-state rivalry that happened today. And unfortunately, it turned into an in-state massacre. We're talking about the Ducks in Oregon going into Oregon State and just obliterating the Beavers 49-14. Dylan Gabriel was sharp once again. 3 TDs on a day, 2 passing, 1 rushing. And when you look at Oregon State, yes, they're 2-1, but you didn't see anything special about this team today. Brock, I know you love to rip into Dan Lanning, but he got the job done.
Yeah, he absolutely did get the job done. I think he needed a win like this to really press the reset button on their season. I mean, when you have such poor performances against Idaho and Boise State, maybe the state of Idaho is Dan Lanning's kryptonite. We just didn't know. I don't know. But I think that this is a wonderful win for him today. I'm not going to take anything away from it. I do want to add, this is not a typical Oregon State team, and it's a lot easier to win in Corvallis when it's warm. However, Oregon had a job to do. They got it done. They got it done well, and this could be the catalyst to having much more improved play once they finally get into conference play. Really, I have nothing more to touch on. I felt Oregon understood what they had to do. They were very dominant. They're very consistent. They controlled the things that they could control, and they didn't let things get to them. And they didn't even allow that situation to even manifest itself. So well done to the Ducks, and for the Beavers. Today has to be the massive slap in the face for you. You're supposed to be partnered up with Washington State as the Pac-12 tries to reinvent themselves in order to get back that Power 5 status, right? Well, even though they're completely different teams talent-wise, Washington State went on the road and beat their in-state rival, Washington, who was 2-0 on the season and had a lot of things going for them. I'm not saying you have to beat the Ducks, but to get blown out in this manner, it just seems like there's a differential in power, and you're allowing Washington State to now become the flagship program for the conference, when in reality, it probably should be you. So that's just something to think about for the Beavers.
All righty there, Greg. What say you?
Dylan Gabriel played a very good game, and Oregon State is not as strong a program as they were last year. That's the bottom line here. The Oregon Ducks went into Corvallis and did a number on them. That's just the way things go. If you're not able to keep your guys there, like DJ and all that other fun sort of stuff, Oregon State suffered. And this was going to be a cakewalk for Oregon no matter what this week. It wasn't going to be a close game. Oregon State lost so much talent compared to what they had last year, and I just knew that this would be a very tough game for them.
Yeah, I'm going to say this. Oregon State, when DJ left via the transfer portal, I don't think they did enough to replace him. And people go, well, DJ, how can you say that? He's playing horrible at Florida State. Well, that Florida State offense played horrible when they lost their quarterback last year. They're just continuing the bad play, whether they have DJ or not. There's something wrong with Florida State's offense. All of a sudden, when you lose one quarterback, it goes in the toilet. You bring in one in the transfer portal who played very well at Oregon State last year, and y'all can't do anything with him this year. You're 0-3. So there's something worse than DJ Ugalele than in Florida State. In Tallahassee, yes, I am destroying his name. It happens every time.
Ugalele.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll let you properly pronounce it, Brock, because I'm going to butcher it every time. It's like Ginsu with me. Anything longer than 3 syllables, forget about it. All right.
It just came out funny.
It is funny because it probably sounded horrible. All right, but anyway, even with DJ, they have issues, right? They have issues consistently running the football. They can't pass protect to save their lives. He took a beating these 3 games. Okay, their line is almost as bad, if not worse, than Colorado's. Okay, Colorado's line at least showed improvements with the reshuffle tonight, and they're winning right now, 28-9, by the way. But Florida State has not shown any improvement at all over the first 3 games. There is something bad in Tallahassee right now. But we're talking about where DJ left, and you talk about Oregon State. You didn't do enough to replace that, and it shows. You go up against Oregon, you would at least be able to score with them. You say, hey, listen, we're going to make this competitive. We're not going to be able to stop this team. We don't have that kind of defense, but we at least can be able to score with them. They couldn't even do that. Okay, so once that happens, this game is over.
Well, but Oregon State lost so many guys on their defense as well from last year. That's the biggest issue. Yeah. Is their defense has just been decimated, and there was no way that they were going to stop Oregon. There was just no way.
Well, this is where you as coaches now, see, the hard part is, a few years ago we could say, yeah, that was the reason, right? They lost so many guys, it's hard to replace. We had the problem at the high school level. We lost 25 seniors. It was hard to replace them this year. Okay. Yeah, you may get a couple of transfers, but there is no transfer portal at the high school level where we can recruit players. At the college level, I can recruit players. I can recruit a guy that's sitting on somebody's bench. I can recruit a guy who's killing at the JUCO level. I think can help my program defensively. I can do. You have more ability. The better programs are using the portal as free agency. I'm going to replace somebody in my program quickly that's going to help me win. He's an experienced player. If you're not doing that, Oregon State, if you're not doing that, guess what? This is what happens to you. Okay, because guess what? Dan Lanning lost players. You better believe he didn't just sit there with the guys that he recruited. He went in that portal and got guys. Oh, by the way, he got Dylan Gabriel, right? So there you go, right? If you're not doing enough, not just on a recruiting trail, but going out there in that portal and saying, we're going to lose 3 starters on defense, high quality starters, we better at least get somebody's guy that's killing it at the FCS level, the group of 5 level, that can come in here and compete. Let them come in here and do it. We need better players. You need players now. You can't wait 3 years for them out of high school. Okay, so this is where you got to do the right thing and help your program. Is it hard? Probably. They don't have the collective of Alabama. They don't have the collective of a Penn State. But guess what? I'm pretty sure there are pretty good guys out there that are willing to stay in state or come from somewhere else where they're not going to get. They may not get the NIL money, but they'll get the chance to play, be in big-time games. Guess what? Come to Oregon State and get on the field right away. That's a very good option. Right? So obviously they didn't do that. When you look at this defense, and I'm going to tell you right now, they did not do that. This defense, talent-wise, is falling off big time from where they were last year. So definitely, this is something that you look at. They didn't do enough to replace the quarterback. They didn't do enough to replace the defensive players, and this is why you get smoked by an Oregon team like this.
Yeah, and just to add to your point quickly, not only did they lose DJ last year, but they also lost Aiden Childs to Michigan, Michigan State. So getting a proper quarterback should have been number 1 on their priority. Now, everyone is going to tell you, Jeff, well, of course, Oregon replaced them. They have massive amounts of NIL money to spend on players. Well, does Washington State have that same NIL collective? Does Fresno State have that same NIL collective? Does UNLV have that NIL collective? I don't think so, but they're still bringing in top players. You're Oregon State. That means you have access to premier talent at the JUCO level, Pacific Northwest, Northern California, even parts of Southern California. Just because that you guys aren't searching or you guys are unable to get those talents doesn't mean that they're not there and they're not right for the plucking. Especially when you look, especially from a defensive backside, you look at a team like Cal right now, like guys like Craig Woodson and Noah Williams. Yeah, how did they get them and you guys didn't? Yeah, I'm just saying, you can't say it's all about money when there's teams around you that have similar financial situations getting the job done when you're not.
Absolutely. So before we get to the statement, and I wanted to really wait till after, but this is really burning me. We really got to dig into this program right now. Speaking of DJ Uiagalelei,
very good.
All right. So let's talk about it. He came from Oregon State. We just talked about Oregon State losing him. He goes to Florida State. We see absolutely no improvement out of Florida State. They're actually worse than they were last year. And then you look at it and go, what is wrong with Florida State? Can you guys tell me what's wrong with Florida State?
I would be a while, so I'll let you go first, Greg.
Oh, well, this is simple. Mike Norvell did not recruit guys to replace his defensive line, and he has absolutely sucked at getting guys playing offensive line. Like you said earlier, that offensive line, they were absolutely horrifying again today. I mean, Memphis came out there and smoked on that offensive line. Now, Memphis is 3-0. They're a good football team, bottom line. But Florida State, I have no idea why anybody would want to go to Florida State, Florida, or even Miami, just because of who the coach is at Miami. Yes, they have, Cam had a huge day and they won 62-0 today, but still, I would not want to go to any one of those 3 schools in Florida. I'm sorry. I just wouldn't. I'd rather go to USF or UCF. If I was going to go to a Florida school, I'd want to go to those 2 schools.
Blasphemy. Absolutely.
But it's the truth.
It's not the truth. Blasphemous. What?
I would much rather be a UCF or a USF student than I would be at any one of those other 3 schools.
I mean, I'd rather be a UCF student if it was like I was a part of the student life. Sure. I mean, I'd probably be a USF if I was like a wide receiver because their offense tailors to them. But Florida's, come on, the pageantry, the pride, the tradition, the money. Tallahassee. Come on.
Bobby Bowden has been gone for a long time.
Yeah, and they still won a natty after him. You can have success at Florida State.
That's because they were eating the W's.
Yeah.
Not a crab legs. Not a crab legs as well. Which, by the way, I just want to share. I till this day, this is my conspiracy theory about college football. Till this day, I don't believe Jameis stole the crab legs. I think Jameis was given the crab legs under the table with some other bags per se. I think he got caught, so they have to say he stole it. But I think that was all part of the NIL collective that the FSU had before NIL was a thing. But that's regards to the point. Greg hit it right on top of the head. The reason why they're so trash right now is because they did not replace the production loss on the offensive and defensive lines, right? But why does DJU get all the blame? Yeah, he's not a great quarterback. Yeah,
he gets the blame because everybody's focused on the position of being the quarterback. That's all it is. And again, did I lay any of that blame at all on him? Not one iota. I blamed it on the lack of the offensive line, and the defensive line this year just totally sucks compared to what they had last year when they had Mr. Verse and Mr. Frisk. Yeah. There's the biggest issue that I have with all of football, as you guys both know, is everybody always talking about the quarterback. There are 10 other players on the team with these guys. And if those guys can't get the jobs done, the quarterback's going to suck. That's it.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, look at everyone around DJ. You know, look at the running back room. Look at the wide receivers. Name one wide receiver as a go-get-it kind of guy. I can't name one.
There's nothing.
Name one
less than 2 seconds. Oh, sorry, Jeff, go for it.
That's right. Name one that can get away from man-to-man coverage. We haven't seen it done yet in 3 games. So I think that's where you look at it and go, "What the heck?" They had 2 guys go to the pros last year that, and they didn't really separate great. They were great at catching the football over defenders, but they weren't great separators, right?
No.
You lose those 2 guys. Now you got a bunch of guys that can't separate at all. You can't protect your quarterback. He's taking a beating. And it's real easy to blame DJ for several reasons. 1, yes, the quarterback gets all the blame. But 2, you're talking about a guy who came on hot at Clemson and then fell off, right? So everybody said he was a problem at Clemson. He goes to Oregon State. Does all right. Does bad. The show bounces back. Goes there. And they're expecting him to go back to being first-year Clemson DJ. And what happened? It doesn't happen. It's a big dud. And they're easily blaming him for it all. But if you're watching the game, you are watching, tackles that can't hold up against pass rushers for a second and a half. They can't hold the edge. Okay? It is bad. And when you have more than one tackle doing it, it's hard to get comfortable in the pocket because you're always sliding and escaping and doing all this stuff. You're never throwing on schedule. You're never throwing in rhythm. So, and when you're not consistently running the football, that kills you. And then you turn around and you go on the sideline to try and correct the stuff, and your defense is getting run all over. Okay? Now you're watching the scoreboard go the other way. So while they've been in a couple of close games, they didn't get blown out in every game, but this has been bad. It's been a horrible start for Florida State, not just record-wise, but just watching the product on the field has been bad. This is not what you typically see from a Florida State program. So Mike Norvell just got a brand new deal after last year. Everybody was high on this team. There's a little bit of fool's gold after last year. Because that dude Jordan Travis carried this team last year, and I said that last year when they were undefeated. And when people were saying, and I live in Florida, I live in the Tampa area, so people are always arguing about how they should have been in the playoff last year. So this is like when UCF went undefeated and didn't get a chance. I said, no, it is not. Okay, they were undefeated. They barely made it through the conference without their quarterback. They weren't playing against any one of those teams. If you'd have put them out there versus Texas, they would have gotten smoked. You'd have put them out there versus Michigan last year, they would have gotten smoked. Versus Washington, they would have gotten smoked. Okay. You saw what Bama did in there. Okay. Bama had to play above their heads to darn near take out Michigan. Okay. So there are there's a reality to the situation. When your offense falls off exponentially because your quarterback is injured, it means you're not as talented as you thought. That quarterback may have been very special, and indeed Jordan Travis was. So this is why when you look at this offense this year and you see even with a better quarterback that they ended the season with last year, they're not a better team. They are struggling in a lot of phases. And you have to look at Mike Norvell and say, how did you go from that to this so quickly? Because there's something missing here. How could you not have better alignment in this? I can look at my practices and go, we're gonna have a hard time protecting our quarterback with these guys. Can we don't have anybody in here to reshuffle with? Can we go out there and get a portal and get somebody? Because this ain't gonna get it done. If you played the spring game and thought this was gonna get it done, this is why you're 0-3.
I said it after they lost to Georgia Tech. That this team is going to go down. And it's just too simple to see. It's too simple to see. And UCF, by the way, just beat the Horned Frogs 35-34 at TCU.
Wow. Yes, Gus is dancing up a storm in that locker room. I'm going to tell you that right now.
It.
I'm telling you that right now.
What happened? I was watching TCU.
It was 21-7. Yeah, it was 21-7.
That's where I left it.
Yeah.
KJ Jefferson. He went off. He
confuses me sometimes, KJ. But just something I want to just kind of add to the conversation real quick. Let's look at NFL caliber talent that has left Florida State since Norvell's been there. So I'm going to go start from the 2022 draft class. Jermaine Johnson, transfer from Georgia. Jamie Robinson, transfer from South Carolina. Jared Verse, transfer from Albany. Keon Coleman, transfer from Michigan State. Brent Fitz, transfer from Wyoming, if I'm not mistaken. You look at the guys that worked there before he got there and the guys that are now in the NFL, none of them were guys he developed. They were all finished products or nearly finished products before they came in. And that's why the reason why it's also bad is because he has tried to use that recipe again to try to replace all those players with other transfer guys while seemingly being in the state of Florida and not have his program being in a state of, what's even the right word, of competence to be able to properly recruit that area and have your transfers lead the way to having homegrown talent supplement them and then eventually step up into the positions they vacate. I think that's another reason why you see a bunch of these going on. He's got a lot of things to consider. Also, why is Lawrence Toafili not getting the ball more at open space? But again, not the point. His inability to bring up homegrown talent is severely hammering the future prospects of the Seminoles. And that's something people with a lot of money got to start asking themselves about as this goes on.
Indeed. So what we're going to do is almost time for the statement. So we're going to take one more break, folks. We'll be back. We're going to wrap up all of this stuff, the late game action. We're going to talk about all that stuff, and we're going to make sure we get our statement in there before we leave you tonight. But hang on, because there's a break coming your way.
Enjoy 40% off site-wide. Vitable takes the guesswork out of feeling good. Get your own personalized daily vitamin pack safely delivered to your doorstep every month. Take their online quiz to find out which vitamins and minerals can support your personal needs based on your own diet and lifestyle. Hashtag only what you need, nothing that you don't. All vitamins are manufactured in Australia at the highest quality standard. Ingredients come in the best form for their absorption by your body. Enjoy 40% off site-wide using code NBS40 at checkout.
No, Greg. Notre Dame isn't the greatest school ever. You have to try at least and be biased. Another crazy college football Saturday is in the books. So let's get back to the show and discuss it all. Thanks for tuning in. The Last Word, a show for the real college football fan.
Well, Notre Dame did win big today, Greg. So you got to be feeling good about that after last week's.
That was the
hoodwinking.
in-state pounding that we should have been discussing, not this Oregon State nonsense. West Lafayette, Indiana, you got your asses kicked today. I mean kicked. I loved it. That stupid 150-pound drum of theirs. I don't care. Lee Corso is always right. Never Purdue. Never Purdue.
Woo, boy, oh boy. Yeah, well, listen, I think it was only that bad because of what happened last week. You go out there, Northern Illinois beats you in your house. Your own fans are yelling, "You suck" at you as you're leaving the field. Yeah, I think they were pretty pissed off today. That and Purdue was very soft. As you saw the tackling in that game, it was atrocious. I don't think Purdue came to play. They definitely weren't ready to play Notre Dame. And it showed on the scoreboard. When Steve Angeli comes in at halftime and is still running up and down the field on you with the backups, you didn't come to play today. And not saying Steve Angeli's bad, but he is not ready yet to be the starter. Otherwise, he would have beat out Riley Leonard, especially with the first 2 games of the season, the way Riley Leonard played. Big improvement today.
I still like the fact that Angeli found the receivers open, because Riley Leonard is 2-1 and hasn't thrown one single damn touchdown yet. He hasn't thrown a touchdown. Oh, no, this is not good. No.
And I'll tell you what, he had a chance for one, but it came when he broke the pocket. So
yeah.
I don't always, there's times when you're going to break the pocket, you're going to miss a guy, especially when there's a guy flashing in front of your face. He's a guy that's going to look to run because he has the ability to run. Riley Leonard, now, question is going to be, if he doesn't improve as this season goes along, do you make a move? Because you're going to get to the point at this season, you're going to play teams, you got to throw the football effectively to beat them. There are going to be teams that are going to come in there to stop your run and say, yeah, go ahead, Riley Leonard, beat us with your arm.
Yeah, in 2 weeks, there's going to be a team called Louisville coming.
Yeah, and Louisville's going to blitz and do it, but I don't think Louisville's anything like the Louisville team that beat them last year. So I think that may be.
But still, if Riley Leonard doesn't throw a touchdown against Miami of Ohio, I'm putting Angeli in against Louisville. I don't care. I'm putting him in there.
Yeah, I think he's better off than Hartman was. I think he's a lot more mobile than Hartman. Hartman was definitely the better passer, but they're not going to be able to do the things they did to Hartman to him. And I think that's the difference, because he escaped and hurt you with your legs. Hartman couldn't do that. Hartman couldn't do that.
No.
So we're going to just jump around real quick. I want to touch up on all late game action that just ended. We had another ticker, but with us talking, I haven't had a chance to update that for you. So we're going to just talk through these. Once again, my current school, FIU, is trailing FAU. In Southern Florida rivalry there. 38-20 currently, 2 minutes left in the fourth quarter, so that's very close to ending. BYU in the third is up 27-7 over Wyoming. Cal up 7-3 over San Diego State in the second quarter. Fresno State 14-0 in the first versus New Mexico State.
Not a surprise.
Oklahoma State 45, Tulsa 10. We didn't touch on this one earlier. LSU and South Carolina. The Gamecocks had a nice lead. What happened in that game?
The Gamecocks were ripped off by those flipping officials is what they were.
Yeah, right.
They were ripped off. That was not an offensive pass interference call on that one throw that the backup quarterback hit. There was no OPI on that play.
Zero.
They call him back. That is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I'll tell you what.
Why does Robbie ask for your backup? You're just asking for it at that point.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, man. That was an exciting game. I did not expect LSU to come back the way they started that game off. Kudos to him, though. Listen. Right now, Brian Kelly's dancing around in that locker room. Not very good. If you've seen him with recruits, it's the worst thing in the world. Looks like he has cerebral palsy when he's dancing. But
yeah, but he doesn't have the southern accent anymore, so that's a good thing.
Because that brother got no soul. That's like he got a soul in his body. He got a soul in his bones.
Yeah. So
you got liar for majority of your career.
just trying to get to the later games here.
Well,
US
number one, Georgia just beat
Yes,
Kentucky
yes.
13-12. Now,
Let's jump in on that.
What did we say last week about that game, Jeff?
I said that was a trap game. That was a trap game. Yeah.
Bingo. Because Kentucky at home is always going to be a tough place to play.
I'm going to say this, and I am, a lot of people are going to say, well, I've been hearing about this as a draft guy. We're all draft guys. What have we been hearing all summer? Carson Beck. He's going to be one of the top quarterbacks in this draft class. Carson Beck. I said I didn't see it last year. I said I didn't see it in the spring when everybody was raving about the spring game. I watched the spring game. There was nothing to rave about. He threw some nice throws, but he had a lot of questionable ones. And so far this season, he has not played anywhere near top draft quarterback ability. Right now, he's playing like a day 3 quarterback. So I'm still waiting for people to show me a Carson Beck that could be going day 1. Right now, I see a day 3 quarterback. And there's a reason why. This team is good enough to win in Kentucky, but not by 1. Not by 1.
Not by 1. No.
That's not something I would expect from this team.
Kentucky's defensive line stood up the Bulldogs' offensive line tonight.
Mm-hmm.
They stood them up. That is no easy task.
And there's something about standing on your head when you're playing superior competition, right? So that happens, but not this game. Not if you're Georgia, who you're supposed to be. This is the national, top team in the nation right now. They ain't the national champs. They want to get it back. This ain't it. So far these first 3 games, I'm not moving my chips on Georgia. If I'm anybody. This team may not make it out of the SEC right now.
Yeah, and next week I believe they play Alabama, so that's gonna be a great game to see where everyone is at in terms of potential national championship scenarios. But you look at the Georgia Bulldogs team. I mean, I'll tell you why Carson Beck looked so good last year. It's because he had Brock Bowers and Lad McConkey. If you catch basketball, that's why it looks so good. But when we look at Kirby Smart's tenure as the head coach of the Georgia Bulldogs, there's some serious deficiencies that I would like to address. Obviously, his defense has been phenomenal. And he produces high-level collegiate defensive players. Some of them have gone to have success in the NFL. Some of them have been falling short of expectations, but that's not really what I want to address. I want to talk about the offensive side of the ball. How many first-round offensive linemen has he produced at the NFL? The only guy that's coming to mind right now is Andrew Thomas. So please correct me if I missed on somebody.
He's had a few. Isaiah Wynn was also a first round.
First round.
Yeah.
Right.
So
I forgot because he only played 1 game in his career.
But yes, I mean they are with the rose-colored lens because they played at the SEC school, right? I mean that's the bottom line there. But again, you're on the mark with the offensive line guys. You really are.
Yeah, I just think of when I see this offensive line that Kirby Smart has had for his past couple of years, I think a lot about Clemson. Clemson has never had an outrageously good offensive line or an offensive line that I'll even consider to be a top 5 offensive line in the country during Dabo Swinney's tenure. Of course, you feel free to disagree with me, gentlemen, but that's just something I feel about Kirby Smart. His inability, I guess, to establish himself up front on the offensive side of the ball means that their rushing attack, where they don't have spectacular running backs, suffers, which means that more responsibility goes on the quarterback. And when that quarterback doesn't have the proper pass catchers because, well, let's be real, he can't recruit tight ends or wide receivers as well as other people in the conference, you start to see it's a domino effect. I was thinking, play against Vandegrift. I'm sure Vandegrift was telling all the coaches at Kentucky some of their tells and some of this and some of that. Which gave them an advantage, of course. But at the end of the day, it's a battle between men. Scheme is a lot of things. Desire and will is everything. And we're seeing a Georgia team that when their will is matched, the deficiencies pop out. And that's very, very scary if you're a Bulldogs fan, not only for the season, but going forward, because we know they're not really going to change their approach to how they recruit and develop players. That's just not something that happens, especially when you have two national championship rings on your fingers, i.e., look at Clemson. So big worries for me if you support the Bulldogs.
Oh, and if you're a Texan Longhorn fan, Quinn Ewers went out today and Archie went to town.
Looking like his grandfather, right? He was throwing it. He was running with the rock because Lord knows his uncles weren't exactly great at running with the rock, right? So we saw Archie play today, and he looked like Archie. If anybody, I know there's a lot of younger folks out there that never saw Archie. The grandfather play
with the Aints. The Aints. They were not the Saints. They were the Aints.
They were the Aints for sure.
Archie had some wheels. Old man Manning could reverse the field like nobody's business back in college.
Those wheels are the reason why he talks clear today, because the way they beat him up in New Orleans, he could have been out there sounding like Muhammad Ali in the 80s. Okay, he was taking some serious beats.
Serious hits.
Yeah, I'm just saying, look what happened when Kent Stabler went to the Saints.
Yeah,
you gonna see what happens when you a pocket passer in New Orleans.
But young Archie went 9 for 12, 223, 4 touchdowns. He ran 3 times, 53 yards for another touchdown. So Quinn Ewers, another one of these guys who everybody says is a first-round quarterback. He's a first-round. No, he's not, guys. He's not.
I don't even think. I think he's done. He's not like a super senior yet, right? I think he still has eligibility left. Ewers.
Oh yeah.
If they go Manning for the rest of the season, depending on the severity of his injury, don't be surprised to see old Quinn back in the portal and get more of that NIL money, because he's definitely not going to get first round money. That's for sure.
Well, he's got Dr. Pepper money right now, so that's enough for him right now.
Yeah.
For now. I just say somebody somewhere is going to write him a nice check and he decides to come back and hit the portal.
And Missouri got a little tough test today against Boston College.
Great segue, Greg, because we were just about to go there. And then we're going to pull that graphic up. Yes, they did win an impressive win at home versus the ranked Boston College team. It's been a while since we said ranked Boston College. And I remember last year giving their head coach quite a bit of hell last year for what he was doing. So far, he's doing a good job this year, able to take number 6 Missouri to the task in this game. There it is, folks, 27-21, your final there. And what can you say? Listen, Missouri's offense did the thing. When you talk about Boston College, they're throwing the football better. Castellanos, 249 passing, 3 TDs, but 2 big INTs today.
Yeah. That's what killed the Eagles today was those interceptions.
Yeah, and I'm going to throw it back up because you look at it, it's a 6-point game. They had the 2 interceptions. Do you know how much rushing Boston College had today? As a team, 49 yards rushing. That is not Boston College like, right? So I think that played a factor as well. They were unable to get the ground game going. He had to do it all, throwing the football, and that's why you saw those 2 interceptions. I think right there, that's why when you talk about Boston College falling short, you got to look at the whys, right? This team was a notorious run team for many years. They got stuck being a passing team only today. And against a tough team in Missouri who can do everything, but they also can play some defense too. They do give up a lot of points, yes, but because they're one of those fast-paced offenses that keeps churning and keeps their defense on the field a lot, they're going to give up points. So, that game right there was one of the better games of the day as well.
Missouri, for some reason, like a lot of teams talk about college football, right? We talk about them having a defensive legacy or a defensive identity. Why don't we ever talk about Missouri's? Missouri has had a long time defensive identity, all the way going back to the Gary Pinkel days. I mean, I remember when they had I think it was Alden Smith coming out at edge, and I remember the 07 season when they were stout defensively. Of course, Chase Daniels gave the love, but they were a very good defensive team. I think that we don't give Missouri enough credit. I mean, of course, they were going up against third-string quarterbacks. When we saw what they did to Ohio State in the Cotton Bowl last year, we saw what they did to SEC opponents last year. More importantly, we saw what they did to Kansas State last year. Right? That should have been the eye-opening call. Because that kind of offensive line that Kansas State had in 2023, Missouri is going to be a tough out. I do think the East is actually stronger than the SEC. Do they even still do conflict? Still divide that?
No.
Oh, that's one thing now. Right.
Yeah.
Well, think about what they used to be. The old East, I think, is a lot stronger than the old West, and Missouri is a big part of that.
Well, right now they're off to a great start, 3-0, keeping up with the top dogs in the conference. So,
yeah, I said the SEC is going to have 4 automatic bids for the college football playoffs. This is how you establish one of them.
yeah,
Especially since I think the Big 12 is about to lose one of the 2 that I allocated to them. So who knows? But they might get 5 at this point. I don't know.
Missouri and Ole Miss don't play each other either.
See, I'm just saying right now, Alabama, Georgia, Missouri, Tennessee, and
Ole Miss.
Why not?
well, we get to say a bunch of things right now. It's time for the statement. So, this is that time of the show where we say who we believe made a statement today in the college football world with their performance. We're going to start it off with you, Greg.
Oh, I'm gonna just go back to good old Alabama and going up and pounding on Wisconsin the way that they did. Jalen Milroe was phenomenal, and he just continues to be an impressive quarterback, despite not having the genius there on the sideline anymore. That guy that again lost today. Him and McAfee both. They picked their West Virginia guys again. You two losers, go away. Go away. Lee Corso was right on the money as per usual. But no, Jalen Milroe really impressed me today, and Alabama did as well.
How about you, Brock?
I actually have a different take today, and that is the Big Ten, the coaching staffs in the Big 12. Sorry, the coaching staffs in the Big 12. This is something I've been tracking for a while. I think that this weekend's results revealed this to me again. If you want to advance to a high-level job in college football, being a part of one of the premier programs in this country, you cannot be a head coach in the Big 12. It is a career stopper. It is a lateral move at best. And any move you make after that will be lateral moves at best. When you look at the quality of coaches in the Big 12, there's a tremendous amount of really good head men. Guys like Lance Leipold, guys like Chris Kleiman, guys like Matt Campbell. And I can go on and on about the names and resumes. But at the end of the day, that doesn't matter because nobody's looking at them. There is no reason why those gentlemen should still remain at the programs that they are at now. But when push comes to shove, programs around the country are not giving Big 12 coaches the credit they deserve, nor the opportunity to advance into a bigger job. I think about jobs like Alabama, which went to a head coach from Washington, or the Washington job that went to a guy from Arizona, which at that time was in the Pac-12. You look at Arizona State, who hired an Oregon offensive coordinator. You look at you look at Auburn, who they're in Auburn. Yeah, Whittingham, Kevin just said, Kyle Whittingham as well. I mean, unless he wants to stay in Utah, there's no reason he should have got hired somewhere else. But you look at Auburn, who hired a guy from Liberty, and before that, Boise State. You look at all these programs. Nebraska hired. Rule did play for Baylor, coach, but he was hired coming from Carolina Panthers. So you look at all these things. The only coaches that I can remember getting hired out of the Big 12 were coaches that coached at either Texas or Oklahoma. And that wasn't because of conference. That's because it was Texas and Oklahoma. If you want to be one of those coaches that gets a premier job, you cannot coach in the Big 12. And that's something that's kind of prevalent very quickly because you're just going to get stuck there at programs that can only go so far because nobody else is willing to give you an opportunity you rightfully deserve.
All right. Well, for me, the statement's going to be about a guy that ran off to the NFL, chased a lot of money, was given a lot of power, fizzled out real fast, ends up back in college football. Everybody laughed at him when he returned. Nobody's laughing right now. And I'm talking about 3-0 Nebraska head coach Matt Rule.
Yep.
Matt Rule, prior to going to the NFL as a head coach in Carolina, was well respected. He did a lot of great things at Temple. Right, he had a good. So far, he was great. He did a good job turning that Temple program around when he was there. Same thing with Houston, but then you turn around.
Baylor,
sorry. And then you turn around and see the job that happened in Carolina. And immediately everybody goes, okay, well, he's going to go to Nebraska and fizzle out. No, he's a good recruiter. Most importantly, he's a good football coach when it comes to young men. Now, he may struggle with the older men at the NFL level, the guys that make more money than him at times. But overall, when it comes to recruiting and coaching up young men, he is very good at it. And you're seeing that with this Nebraska program. Of course, they played down. Everybody's going to say, well, they played Northern Iowa. Northern Iowa is a good program, 2-0 coming into this game.
Yes, they
you
were.
saw what happens when a good program goes to another big-time program. You saw that with Notre Dame, what happened there. And we've seen it a few other times in the past when App State was lower and they used to come up. Oh, how about when Coastal Carolina went toe-to-toe with BYU and beat them? All right, remember that? All right, so you can have mid-major programs go to a Power 5 program and beat them when they're not playing at their best football. Right? So what you're seeing from Matt Rule is, hey, we're going to play our best football no matter what, no matter who's on that other sideline. Yes, we manhandled Colorado last week. This team is going to get it too. All right. So, yes, great. Did a great job of recruiting. Raiola needed a quarterback. Right. But overall, this program, that defense is playing phenomenal. Right? What they did to Colorado last week. I mean, Colorado just went out there and trumped Colorado State tonight. So they ran the ball. Okay, so Greg, we'll talk about that after this. But anyway, I want to finish up my statement. But yes, Matt Rule has come out and he's done the things that you want to see as a head coach. Come into a program, turn it around. Everybody wants to talk about Luke Fickell. Well, this guy did it a little bit faster, and he used the transfer portal to do it. All right, so kudos to Matt Rule. Now, I'm going to drop out of the solo box here, bring everybody back in. Because guess what? We were just talking about Colorado last week. We were talking about the deficiencies, the big win tonight. But what did they change, Greg? Did you watch any of that Colorado game? Well,
yeah, I watched a little bit of that. Yeah, they actually ran the football this week.
They ran the football up the middle, and they used the tight end. My goodness, they had a tight end on the roster. Oh my goodness. All right. So last week when you're out there versus Nebraska, they're bringing all this pressure. They're doing all this stuff to your front. You never thought to use the tight end. Now you finally go, you know what? We got this kid. Maybe we ought to play him other than special teams. They put him out there. And while he wasn't a game breaker, he made a difference in the running game. He made a difference in the passing game. And he helped in protection with your tackles, who you reshuffled this whole offensive line tonight to kind of protect Shedeur Sanders. Now, he still took some hits and did get sacked again tonight, but he had a lot cleaner pocket. He wasn't battered around all game, and especially in the first half. And it allowed your defense to actually play football today. But what I saw from them tonight was they actually said, you know what? I actually Sherman said I actually coached in the pros. We use tight ends. I'm going to remember how to use them tonight, and I'm going to remember how to run up the middle. And they did just that. Suddenly you realize Colorado could actually run the football. The offense is not all Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter. They can do something and balance this offense. So finally,
that's against a much, again, like they were against North Dakota State.
Yeah.
This Colorado State is not a good opponent. They're not a Big 12 opponent, and when they get to play those Big 12 offensive lines and defensive lines, this Colorado team is still going to suffer. They're still going to suffer.
You got to remember why Shermer was in the NFL, not in the NFL.
Yes, true. But I'm going to say this. This is a rivalry game. We saw it last year when they were trouncing everybody. They got to this game last year and they almost lost. They had to go into overtime and sneak out of there with a win, but they were badly battered in that game, but they lost Travis Hunter. So you never know in rivalry games, and I think they kind of remembered that, and they played with a bigger chip than Colorado State this year did, but they were also just a better team tonight. But it was finally the adjustments that they did made it easier for them to go out there and win tonight. There was no more of that wide running all the time. There was no more just, hey, Shedeur, go out there and run around and save the day trying to throw the ball down the field to Travis and those guys because we can't run the football. They found ways to run the football and do it up the middle, okay? They were able to move bodies out the way. It wasn't just, okay, they ran up the middle and got a yard or two as they fell forward, or they ran into a whole bunch of people at the line of scrimmage and went nowhere. There weren't stalemates at the line of scrimmage. There was movement off the line of scrimmage. Colorado was in white tonight. You saw white jerseys at the line of scrimmage moving green jerseys off the line of scrimmage for once. That was a definitely big change for Colorado because they couldn't even do that last year when Colorado State came to their house and they couldn't move those guys off the line of scrimmage. So, and they had actually NFL players on that line of scrimmage last year, especially the defensive end. So definitely something I looked at tonight and said, okay, they learned something. Right? Maybe they would listen to the show last week when we were kind of gut punching them, saying, hey, don't you have tight ends on this roster? You know, the tight end's a 6 blocker at the line of scrimmage in your running game. Maybe you should think about that, utilizing that guy. Instead of having them hold the Gatorade on the sideline, that's a better option for you.
Yeah, something that now please correct me if I'm wrong because you guys have watched McCall thicker than me, but something that has been irritating me for a while, and I thought they finally got the ball to him more this game. LaJohntay Wessler is one of the most dynamic weapons in all of college football. You make him over from FAU. I thought he was going to be a guy that gets the ball a lot. Him and Jimmy Horn, because of just how fast and elusive they are. Why hasn't he been getting the ball more? Like, I hope that this is a change in how they go about that.
They tried to get him the ball the first couple of games. The problem was the quarterback was running for his life. Okay, so tonight he wasn't running for his life. He had a cleaner pocket, like I said. He was able to move around, and when he did buy time, he was buying time and finding him over the middle. But he was able to hit him in rhythm on some throws. They actually called some plays. I said, wow, I actually don't hate that play call. It actually makes sense. Like I said, Pat Shurmur, when he came in, I said, well, Pat Shurmur is a West Coast guy. So I expected to see some West Coast elements in this offense. Still is spread. I don't know. I assume it's supposed to be an air raid. To steal a Buddy Ryan expression, the first couple of games, it was the chuck and duck. Okay? Because that's what it was. All right. So I'm assuming they're supposed to be air raid. When I look at the concepts, they are air raid concepts. I don't see much West Coast in his offense. I personally don't understand why, if you're an NFL coach and you've run NFL concepts, there's a lot of them you could. If I could run them at the high school level, you can run them at the college level. I mean, that part still bothers me that you come in and you got to. I've run spread and air raid, and trust me, they're good offenses, but there's certain pro concepts that you need for any offense, and it's the simplest stuff. And if you're going to teach them that stuff, and this kid is supposed to be, Shedeur Sanders is too many S's. Shedeur Sanders is supposed to be an NFL caliber quarterback, a top tier NFL caliber quarterback. Then guess what? He should understand some of the NFL concepts, especially West Coast and things of that nature. So you could easily add that stuff into your offense. You don't have to not have it in there because you're air raid. You know what? I had that stuff when I was air raid, but you know what?
Shedeur still had to throw the ball 49 times tonight, though.
Yeah,
49 times.
Well, they played an up tempo offense, though, Greg. That's the one. Yeah, that's the one thing about it. I still to this day, up tempo is cool. Don't get me wrong, but sometimes you do have to slow it down. It exposes your defense to a lot of things. Now tonight, their defense owned. Okay, they didn't give up a score till they were already up 28-3. So at that point, the defense owned the night. So I can understand why, but even then you would have slowed it down a little. At times, I think that you going fast all the time can get you hurt. Tennessee did that with Bama plenty of times. Remember, they kept losing those games because you kept going 3 and out real quick, and Bama's right back out there. And next thing you know, that scoreboard jumps the other way real fast. It can be a detriment when you're going fast all the time. So that some teams you got to look at the game and realize I got to slow it down a little bit. Hey, go to the line, call the dummy call, let them look at the line, slow the game down. You want to go line up quick so they got to get organized at the line of scrimmage and you can play games with them. Hey, do it that way, but still slow the game down. All right. You can't always just be going, okay, let's go play. Every 12 seconds, run a play. Your defense is going to get just as worn out as theirs.
Yeah. And Colorado gets Baylor next week, but then the week after that, they're coming down to UCF, and UCF is not going to be a team that they can try and pound on with the running game.
Yes. And I'm not going to that game, believe it or not. I did not ask for a credential next week for that game, because most people don't know because you don't sit in the press box. But UCF doesn't have a very big press box, so when you get a big national following, a team with a huge national following, and you get a lot of national media that wants to come down to UCF and see that team, it gets very cramped in that press box. So, yeah. Yeah,
so I don't know. I'm an Allegiant, so I'm not. Throw that in there.
Yeah, so I'm telling you, I was there a couple of years ago when they brought Stanford to town when Shaw was still there, and boy, oh boy, it was like this in there. Type on my keyboard, it's very hard to do it. Very hard to do it. Hey, can you pass me my water over there? It's very, very, very tight press box. So apparently they've got the approval to expand their suites and press box. So they should have a bigger press box when they, finish their renovation. But nevertheless, it's time to start to say goodnight, folks. So next week we're back. Same bat time, same bat channel, 10:30. Make sure you wake up bright and early in the morning to catch Moving the Chains with our host Ashri Prasad. The boss Joe Cardozo will be in the house, and of course myself will be there as well. And you'll see Greg popping around the chat. Well, no, Greg won't be in the chat tomorrow because he's going to be somewhere else.
I'm going to be on with Monty tomorrow morning. So,
yes.
Yeah.
So that's going to be a whole fiery show in itself. You guys going at it. So make sure you tune in here on Team of BS Media, 11 a.m. Eastern for Moving the Chains. For Brock Vierra in the house this week. For Greg, once again, making the show interesting. And of course, you have my smiling face, Jeff Barnes. We'll see you next week. Thanks for watching, everybody. This has been The Last Word.